Ka'olau Yah Ba'Shem Yahawashi Bahashim Rakakadash. All praise, honor, and glory go to the Most High Yahweh in the name of His Son Yahawashi. And I wanted to come with one from the book of Matthew. I took the liberty of doing some research online about the effects or what happens when you cast your pearls to swine. And it came up with some very interesting things. And so it brought me to want to do a lesson on it. So I'm going to focus on Matthew 7 and 6, but I'm going to also, show you some different things I found online about that and other topics that stem from that. And, it's something that we should really keep our minds on because, the after effects of things sometimes affect the way that you do the work, affects the way that you kind of feel about things. And we should always be trying to, in our hearts, stay purified and continues to get ready for that day when Yahawashi returns. And we don't want to have anything in our hearts towards anyone else or anyone thing on our hearts that tries to hinder us from getting the salvation that he promises to those that follow him. And I'm gonna read the scripture and I'm gonna go to the online real quick. It says in Matthew 7 and 6, "Give not that which is holy unto the dogs, neither cast ye your pearls before swine, lest they trample them under their feet and turn again and rend you." And so it's a familiar saying, and it's an understanding that we received in this truth. If you I'll go over to just Google, and I did an actual just a quick question on what happens when you cast your pearls before swine. And it says, "You are giving valuable or sacred things to those who will not appreciate or understand their worth." So they won't understand the value of the understanding that you're giving them. And then also, when you think about for an Israelite, how the Father looks at us, those that believe and follow and have faith in Yahawashi, you pretty much not understanding your worth. You pretty much throwing away this great gift of being the Lord's chosen, you so-called African American, Native American, Latinos, and speckled bird Israelites that the Father has given you, and you just throwing it away. It says leading them being trampled, so the knowledge gets trampled, and eventually you're going to get trampled because Esau Edom is pushing all these measures strictly designed to be against the Israelites. It says, and potentially turning on you with hostility. And so what I've learned is every time you give some wisdom to someone who treats it like it's swine, like it's something that you're not supposed to take or eat or partake in, which is, swine is a major, and the dietary law is a major thing in the Israelite culture. The pig being one of the most disgusting animals that you can come across, but it has its purpose, but we're not supposed to be eating it. I've learned that when you throw these valuable jewels and gems of what the scriptures say to help you attain salvation to those who don't want it, they turn on you. They turn on you so hard. I mean, they become a whole different person with you, And it's so cold because the Lord promises this to those that are on the path towards, and hoping and wanting to be one of the hopeful elect. And once that spirit gets activated in the person that they're trying to edify and help understand the way to salvation, it can come at any time. It can come at any time. It can just pop up out the blue and just be like, boom. And there's really nothing you can really do. There's really nothing you can do but just accept what the Lord has placed in your path and learn to draw back. One thing I do is I stop giving scriptures. I may still give you knowledge, but I'm not going to give you any more scriptures because then it's kind of like, I may talk scripturally based, but I'm not going to give you any more scriptures, And then they try, for those that maybe have a little bit of knowledge of scripture, they try to use scriptures like Christians use it, to try to justify their what they're doing. Keep going on. It says the phrase warns against sharing sacred wisdom with those who are unreceptive, impure, or disrespectful, as they may reject and misuse what you offer. The main character in this is the women, because women are naturally disrespectful to the Israelite man, because they're not supposed to be saying anything back, anything at all, trying to teach, trying to bring up any kind of scripture, anything at all. They're the servant, so they always got to be looked at as maybe throwing pearl to swine, unless you have one of the few women out there that are doing what they're supposed to be doing. So it's not directed to you when I say that, but majority of the women, they're going to be disrespectful off the rip, because this land preaches feminism and independency, and so they're not going to really respect what an Israelite man does when according to what the scriptures say. Now they'll respect the worldly man. They'll give their all to a worldly man. They'll trade $200 and a phone bill, being paid for this wisdom, knowledge, and understanding from a worldly man, even if like he beat your ass, or he took your kids, he did whatever to you, right? Doesn't matter. What matters is that the person that's trying to give them pearls is a hostile feeling towards it, and it's just that way. Then we got the men who, when you try to throw them these things, they just don't want to admit that the scriptures are justified coming from you, because it's you and, not them, and you look just like them, then it becomes more of a pissing contest. And we hear about that a lot, about ex-camp members that have left the ranks of GMS and going off and start teaching other doctrines. Then it becomes like, hey, you already know the truth, you already were taught these things, but because you just don't want to agree anymore, you continue just to go against it. I also took the liberty of. Well, before we do that, let's go back to the scripture and let's look up the words that come from that. It says, "Give not that which is holy unto the dogs, neither cast ye your pearls." Pearls. Go over to the Greek is G3135, which is the word margarites, and it says a pearl. It says a word of great value. And that will be the scriptures. It says before swine. We already know what swine is, but look at what the Greek says. It says it's the word koiros, and it says a swine. Let's look up swine in just the regular dictionary. It says refers to the animal commonly known as a pig, hog, or boar. It also can be used as a derogatory term for a contemptible person. The term is used in scientific classification to refer to the family Suidae, which includes domestic pigs and wild species like warthogs and barbecuous. And if you actually look, Salakia, I ain't taking the time, you do yourself. If you look at the word earth pig, it actually references back to that JC character that everyone likes to follow instead of calling on the name by his Lord by his true name, which is Yahawashi. Going back, it says, lest they trample, 2662 in the Greek, which is kat ap at eo, and it says the word means to tread down, trample underfoot, to treat with rudeness and insult, to spurn, treat with insulting neglect, to neglect the words, to neglect the teaching, to neglect the edification. You know, I know someone that I've given instructions to, or given some wisdom to through the scriptures, and they accept it, and then they go off and they do the same, do the opposite thing, like right away. Like it's been repetitive too. Like it's like as soon as they get it, they say, "Oh yeah, you're right," and all the right. They sound like they, and then they go back and just go back into doing what they was doing, like immediately, and it's like crazy. But that's what we have to deal with. It says, trample them under their feet and turn again and rend you. Turn again. Let's see what that means. G4762 is the word streetfall. Streetfall, and it says to turn around, turns oneself. It says a one who no longer cares for another. They lose all love for you. They lose all love for you. Scriptures is, man, it's awesome. It says to turn oneself from one course of conduct to change one's mind. Like I was saying, that person right there, they get it, but they change their course of conduct right away, and they change their mind to what the scriptures are saying to them. And it says in Ren G4486, it's the word haragnomi, and it says to rend, to burst, to break asunder, to tear in pieces. It says to distort, convulse, of demon causing convulsions in a man possessed. So they pretty much get a demon on them. They get a straight demon on them. For those that you cast your pearls to swine. Those the swine gets that demon on them, and you don't want that demon to turn on you. So we got to watch those things, and we got to pray that we don't do these things, so that we don't get caught up with dealing with demons. And then when you go over to this right here, I just did another search on AI, because it really talks about underappreciation. That's what it is. They don't really appreciate what Yahawashi has done. So I typed in times where JC, because you got to say it how they like to say it, was underappreciated in the Bible and verses. And it goes on and says in prophetic scriptures, Psalms 118:12, 58:3 says, he was despised and rejected by men, and then we esteemed him not. There we go. So there was always going to be prophesied that he was going to be that way. Psalms 118:22. It says, the stone that builders rejected has become the cornerstone. That's Yahawashi being that stumbling block. And also in a verse later applied to Yahawashi, in those particular, that was another prophecy. In the New Testament, it says in Matthew 13:57, it says, the prophet is not without honor except in his hometown and in his own household. Similar accounts in Mark 6:14, and it says John 1:11 also notes, he came to his own, and his own people did not receive him. John 7:5 says, not even his brothers believed in him. You see? And then John 5:43 says, I have come to my father's in my father's name, and you do not receive me. John 12:37 states, Yahawashi must suffer many things and be rejected by this generation. So you really can't make any of this up. Luke 17:25, we know about Barabbas. The crowd ultimately chose to release a criminal Barabbas instead of Yahawashi when given the choice by Pilate. And that's in, that's in John 18:42 as well. So, we have some different understandings of that. But ultimately, let me go to this scripture right here. I wanted to go to 2 Corinthians 3, and this is the human factor of it all, of why in our generation, and even in the apostles after Yahawashi was going up into the heavens, why a lot of people don't want to accept what the scriptures say on the human factor. It's in 2 Corinthians 13:12, and the elder in Dallas just brought this out and just clicked in. I was just about to do the lesson. I was listening to him. I was like, I got to use this one in my video. It says in verse 12 of chapter 3 of 2 Corinthians, since this new way gives us such confidence, we can be very bold. It's the boldness of it all. It's the confidence of knowing, that the Spirit, and it's not through us. If you go through that whole chapter, you'll see that Paul's not glorifying himself. He's saying that he's being used in this way. Therefore, others who see the confidence and boldness in it, it rubs them the wrong way. And I've been told that many a times in the truth. I've been told, like, hey, you were this way before anyway, but now you just totally like. And I'm like, I mean, when I'm not doing, lessons, I'm in, not in the Spirit doing lessons, if you know me, I'm like the most joking person that you want to meet. You ask my coworker, you always telling jokes. It's always that. I mean, I believe, I've never had anybody have any problem with me except for when I'm coming with this wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. It says, we are not like Moses, who put a veil over his face so the people of Israel would not see the glory, because Moses had that glory on him, and he had to because they would have responded in different ways. So even though it was destined to fade away, but the people's minds were hardened, and to this day, whenever the old covenant is being read, the same veil covers their minds so they cannot understand the truth. So whenever you bring out the law and everything to them and what you're supposed to be doing, they have a veil over their face so they can't hear the truth by the Lord. It says, and this veil can only be removed only by the believing in Hamashiach. You see, if you don't believe, that's a great standard to understand why those that don't believe. That if you realize that you don't believe in this awakening and what's happening, the Hebrew Israelites waking up, you so-called African American, Native American, Latinos, it's right here telling you why, because you really don't believe in Hamashiach. You might believe in JC, that's a foreign god, and his, love everybody and whatever it comes with it, still celebrate pagan holidays. You can go to church, so-called place of worship, and put on demon face paint and all that on this day, which is, a pagan day, which is known as Halloween, and think that it's okay. You can think that you can celebrate a white man coming down a chimney in a so-called place of worship, in Christmas. You'll believe in those things, so you know that you're not really believing in the real Hamashiach, the real deliverer of the nation of Israel. It says, yes, even today when they read Mashah's writings, their hearts are covered with that veil and they do not understand. So at the end of the day, Yahawashi, the prophets, they brought out the law, and they were basically breaking it down in a way for the people that they can understand it in particular times. Yahawashi brought the grace, which was supposed to be like, man, okay, now we're released of having to do all these sacrifices and everything, which would be the best way, right? But at the end of the day, they still didn't want to accept it, and to this day, they still don't want to accept the grace. They don't want to be rulers. They don't want to be righteous, virtuous women. What they want to be is what Esau Edom has presented them to be, which is total degenerates, total harlots, total everything that's against what these scriptures say he wants our people to be, you so-called African American, Native American, Latinos. So at the end of the day, that's where we're at as a people. That's where we're probably going to continue to stay, according to this scripture, unless you believe in Hamashiach. So I just wanted to bring that out. Hope he's edifying to someone out there. With that, just want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Hashem, Yahawashi, Hashem, Kadash, double honors to all the apostles, elders, teachers, preachers, priests, bishops. They came before me, taught me his truth through the videos, starting with the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, and Shalom, peace be to the holy elect, which I'll pray I'm going to number up to next time, Yahweh willing.